Hey, how are you guys doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you guys so much for the support on the channel recently. It's been unreal. I'm very excited to do this video. It's taken a lot of planning to do this, to be honest. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be telling you guys which teams reverse retros I like better, from the reverse retro 1 series to the 2. I'm going to go through every team, and I'm going to tell you guys which series I like better. So, because this video took so long for me to set up, it would mean a ton if you guys hit the subscribe button and the like button if you enjoyed. And now let's get into it. So we'll start off with the Anaheim Ducks here. And I'm going to be honest, this one's kind of simple. I'm going with this year's reverse retro. I think the old school Mighty Ducks logo with orange and the striping in orange, way better than the Wild Wing reverse retro from last year. I think people just liked the last one because of how goofy it was, but really overall jersey wise, this year's for sure. Next up, the Arizona Coyotes. This one's kind of tough, but for me, we got to go purple. I feel like the purple one's just better than the one they've put out this year. Overall, the difference between purple and then how bright it is at the bottom scene is just better. This year, it's kind of just an all dark jersey. Even the sand color's kind of darkish. Then you have the burgundy and then black at the bottom. The whole thing's just kind of dark overall. And then the last one with the purple and then the light background, it's just overall better. This one's kind of easy for me. For the Boston Bruins, it's the last reverse retro. I think reverse retro 1 is better than the Pooh Bear jersey. I think the yellow, for a yellow jersey, this one actually kind of works. I feel like it's nice. The logo looks really good on there, especially with the white backing on it. Overall, I don't think this Boston Bruins one from reverse retro 1 was that bad. Next up, the Buffalo Sabres. This one's kind of easy to me too. It's reverse retro 1. I feel like that logo looks fantastic on there with the swords. And then you got the Buffalo text on the bottom. I just think it's a better overall design than this year's reverse retro. I do think this year's reverse retro logo is better, but the last one just looks better in my opinion. Next up, the Calgary Flames. I would say this year's reverse retro, if you guys know that sublimation print wasn't on the bottom, if it was actual striping. So because of that, I'm going to say the last one. I'm going to say Blasty is better. Although Blasty can be quite boring. To me, it's like a Canucks skate jersey, but with Blasty on it. But still, I think it's better just because of the print on the torso of this year's. For Chicago Blackhawks, pretty simple. It is the last reverse retro 1. I think it's a no-brainer that one's better. I think overall, that Chicago Blackhawks jersey from the first reverse retro is one of the best reverse retros, to be honest. I think it's so clean. From the Carolina Hurricanes, this one's actually tough because I'm not a fan of the gray and fan of the Whalers kind of concepts. I'm going to go with this year's Carolina Hurricanes. I know people don't like it because it's not really retro, but overall, this jersey I think looks really good. For the Colorado Avalanche, I'm going to go the first reverse retro. Although I think that one's kind of overrated, it's not as nice as people say, I do still think it's nicer than this year's reverse retro. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, this one's actually hard. Like, this one I have to actually think about. This one's tough. I like both of them, honestly, about the same. But if I was to pick one, I'm going the first reverse retro series. I do like the red and white, to be honest. I think the red and white looks so good. I also think that logo looks really, really good. I just like how vibrant the red and white is with a little bit of blue in there. Yeah, the first one's better. Dallas Stars, this one's a no-brainer. This year's reverse retro is way better than the practice jersey they put out for the first reverse retro. I actually think this year's reverse retro is a sleeper. It's like one of the better ones, and people seem to not be giving it the love it deserves. Detroit Red Wings is the battle of garbage. No offense, Detroit fans. I'm going to go with this year's reverse retro just because it feels like less of a practice jersey than the first one. But man, it's still not that good. The Edmonton Oilers, I'm going to go reverse retro 1. I think this jersey's better. To me, that orange shoulder is insane. I also really like the orange numbers. And then the rest of the jersey just looks good. This year's isn't bad. To me, it's just not as good. Next up, the Florida Panthers, the jersey behind me. I'm definitely going with the first year reverse retro. I think that thing is gorgeous. You guys know how I feel. I'm not a big fan of this year's reverse retro for the Florida Panthers. It just kind of looks like a mess to me. I'm not the biggest fan, but their first reverse retro jersey is insane. Next up, the LA Kings. I'm going to go their first reverse retro as well here. I do think both of them are extremely nice in their own way. Like, even this year's is so nice, but their first year one, I think is just better. I think the logo looks better. I really like the numbers in the striping. It's just better in my opinion. Next up, the Minnesota Wild. I'm going to go this year's. I know these are both very, very similar, but I do like the darker version opposed to the white one in my opinion. Next up, the Montreal Canadiens. This is actually really tough. This one's like Columbus, super tough, but I'm going to go with this year's. I really like the 2 shades of blue, to be honest. I think it looks really, really good. And then only having the red in the logo makes the logo pop, makes it stand out, which in my opinion, it should. For the Nashville Predators, this one's also really, really hard, but I'm going to go with the first year one. I really do like that pointed kind of arm stripe that they have that goes down with that cool stretchy silver material. I think that looks really good. For the New Jersey Devils, I'm going with the first year reverse retro. I think the green just looks good. I really like the red shoulders as well. I know it's very Christmassy, but overall, I think that jersey just looks better. For New York Islanders, I mean, okay, this one's pretty obvious. It's this year's. Their last year one was really bad. It was pretty much, well, the jersey wasn't bad. It just was boring because it was like their home jersey, just one shade of color different in the blue. But this year's is definitely better. For New York Rangers, this one's actually kind of difficult. I think I'm going to go this year's, but I'm not confident on that. I might look at this in a week and then want to change my mind, but I am going to go this year's reverse retro for today, at least the time I'm making this video. I think the red bleeding down looks quite nice, and the lighter blue I like. For the Ottawa Senators, I'm going this year. I do like that they chose a different design. Last year's was literally just their home and away, but in red instead of black, and I think the one they chose this year is really cool. For the Philadelphia Flyers, this is an easy one. I'm going last year's. I actually think last year's is quite nice. I'm not a big fan of Philadelphia Flyers jerseys, but for some reason, I kind of like their reverse retro one. I think the orange jersey with the black stripe that comes down actually looks pretty good. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm going last year's reverse retro. For some reason, I really like this. The RoboPing's nice, but essentially it's the same jersey just with a different logo on it, and I personally really like the Wordmark one, and I think the white jersey just looks better. For the San Jose Sharks, no brainer. I'm going this year's. I think the Golden Seals jersey design looks fantastic on the San Jose Sharks. Their last year one, I don't think was one of the best, and this year's is definitely one of the best. St. Louis Blues, this is a tough one, the one I'm wearing here or the yellow one. I'm going with this year's reverse retro. I feel like a lot of people may not agree with me, but I think the yellow is a lot easier to look at than the red and blue. I just really like yellow and blue, to be honest. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't know if this will be a shock to some people, but I'm for sure going with the first year reverse retro. I think that is actually the best reverse retro that came out of that series, or at least a top 3. This year's is okay, but like I've said numerous times, I don't like the gray to white up in the shoulder area. It just ruins it. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, this is a no-brainer. I'm going this year's. I like the logo of this year's. I like the shoulders of this year's, and the striping's very simple, but it works. I just think the logo is my favorite part. For the Vancouver Canucks, this is the hardest one, but I'm going first year reverse retro. I really like the gradient. I like the shoulders, how it comes down to a point, and then the point at the bottom of the shoulder also, or the bottom of the sleeve matches it. The gradient looks fantastic. It keeps the Orca. I just like the first year's. This year's is really nice too, though. For the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going this year's reverse retro. It's a very solid design. It's very much a Canucks flying skate design here, but I think it works. I really like the Vegas text as well, and the font's really cool on it. The first year's isn't terrible. It's just not as good. The Washington Capitals, I'm going this year's. I think the black and blue looks way better than the blue and red, in my opinion, at least for this jersey. Maybe it's because that's what we're all used to, but I just think it looks really good. I also like the implementation of gold in there. The actual gold material, I think, was a great addition. Last but not least, the Winnipeg Jets. I'm for sure going this year, so that's an easy one. I think the logo looks so good, colorized the way it does. I think the light aviator blue that they have looks fantastic as well. Overall, it's just way better than their first years. So you guys have it. That is me ranking every single reverse retro, telling you guys my favorite if I like this year's opposed to the first year's. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Any you really disagree with, any you agree with, let me know. I'm always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. Of course, it would mean a lot if you guys subscribed, like the video if you enjoyed. I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.